Jimmy Hartley had 847 perfect deliveries when pride made him ignore a weather warning that added 2 hours to his flight. Now he sat bleeding in his crashed Cessna 200 miles deep in the Sahara. His co-pilot Marcus had wandered off concussed. The beacon was dead. Jimmy had 3 liters of water, a broken compass, and 50 miles of desert between him and rescue. The guilt threatened to paralyze him with every step. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The sun climbed over the dunes at 5:47 in the morning, and Jimmy knew he had maybe 3 hours before the heat became lethal. He'd spent the night in the wreckage, shivering despite his flight jacket. The Sahara's temperature swings were brutal. 50 degrees at night, 120 by afternoon. He forced himself to stand. His ribs screamed. 2 broken, maybe 3, on his left side. Every breath felt like someone was driving a knife between his bones. The gash on his forehead had stopped bleeding, crusted over with sand and dried blood. His right ankle was the size of a grapefruit. The cockpit was a disaster. Windscreen shattered, instrument panel crushed. The control yoke had snapped clean off during impact. Jimmy's logbook lay on the floor, pages scattered, 847 entries documenting his perfect record. He picked it up and threw it into the sand outside. Marcus's seat was empty. The seatbelt hung loose, unbuckled from the inside. Jimmy remembered nothing after the sandstorm hit, nothing after the aircraft pitched violently and the altimeter spun like a roulette wheel. He'd woken up 11 hours later with the sunset burning through the broken windscreen. He found Marcus's flight bag wedged under the co-pilot seat. Inside, a phone with a shattered screen, a protein bar, Marcus's wedding ring on a chain. Marcus never wore it during flights, said it brought bad luck. Jimmy pocketed the ring. The emergency beacon sat on the floor, its casing cracked, the LED dark. Jimmy pressed the test button. Nothing. The radio was even worse. Torn from its mounting, wires exposed and sparking when he tried it last night. He inventoried what he had. 3 water bottles, 2 liters total, 6 energy bars, a small bag of almonds, first aid kit with bandages, antiseptic, and 12 ibuprofen. His survival bag had made it: knife, lighter, flashlight, signal mirror, emergency blanket, 30 feet of paracord. The compass was damaged, its needle spinning erratically. Jimmy pulled out his paper map and spread it across the hood of the aircraft. His last known position put them roughly 200 miles northeast of Dakhla. The storm had pushed them further off course, but he couldn't know how far. His best guess, 180 miles from the nearest town. Closer was an oil pipeline maintenance station, maybe 45 miles northwest. He looked at his water supply. 3 liters in this heat meant 2 days maximum. The station was 4 days away at best, considering his injuries. The math didn't work, but staying at the crash site meant slow death. No one knew exactly where they'd gone down. The last radio contact had been garbled, cut off mid-transmission. Search and rescue would be looking, but they'd be searching a grid hundreds of miles wide. Jimmy wrapped his ribs with strips torn from his spare shirt, swallowed 3 ibuprofen dry, splinted his ankle with pieces of aluminum from the cabin and paracord. It wouldn't hold long, but it would hold long enough. He filled 1 water bottle and left the rest buried in the shade of the fuselage. If he made it to help, he could guide rescuers back here. If he didn't make it, the water wouldn't matter anyway. Before leaving, Jimmy walked a wide circle around the crash site. He found Marcus's footprints leading east into the dunes. They wandered in curves, not straight lines. Concussion, disorientation. The tracks were already filling with windblown sand. Marcus had hours on him, maybe 8 or 10. Jimmy couldn't catch up, not in his condition. But he could get help. He could bring back rescuers with helicopters and radios and water. He had to believe that. Jimmy started walking at 6:15, using the rising sun to orient himself northwest. The sand was still cool underfoot. That would change by 9. He'd spent 20 years in the Air Force before going commercial, including survival training in Nevada and Qatar. The rules were simple. Walk at dawn and dusk when temperatures were manageable. Rest during midday heat. Ration water carefully. 1 liter per day minimum, 2 if moving. He had 2 liters total. His makeshift splint held for the first mile. The aluminum dug into his calf but kept the ankle stable enough to walk. Each step sent pain shooting up his leg. He breathed through his nose to conserve moisture, placed a small pebble under his tongue to trigger saliva production. The terrain was deceptive. What looked flat from a distance revealed itself as rolling dunes, each one 20 or 30 feet high. Climbing them destroyed his ribs. The pain made him dizzy. Twice he had to stop and lean against the sand until his vision cleared. By 8 o'clock, he'd covered maybe 3 miles. At this rate, the 45 miles to the pipeline station would take 2 weeks. The sun climbed higher, the temperature with it, 90 degrees, then 95. Jimmy found a small outcropping of rocks at 10:30 and took shelter. Not much shade, but enough. He allowed himself 3 small sips of water, maybe 4 ounces total. His body screamed for more. He pulled out the map again. If he'd calculated correctly, he was heading toward the old oil company survey route. If he could find tire tracks, even old ones, he could follow them to the pipeline. Marcus's face kept appearing in his mind. 28 years old, married 8 months. Eager kid who'd looked up to Jimmy, called him Captain, even when they were off duty. Marcus had been right about the weather. He'd checked the radar 3 times that morning, suggested they delay 2 hours. The clinic needs these supplies today, Jimmy had said. We've got a window. We'll beat the storm. Except they hadn't beaten anything. The medical supplies were scattered across the Sahara now. The clinic would find another supplier. They'd reschedule their procedures. But Marcus was out there somewhere, wandering in the wrong direction with no water and no shelter. Jimmy checked his watch. 11:45. The heat was building to its peak. He'd have to wait it out here for at least 3 hours. Sitting still while Marcus got further away, he closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Couldn't. Every time he drifted off, he saw the cockpit, saw the sandstorm swallowing the windscreen, saw Marcus's hands gripping the armrests. Jimmy, we need to turn around. We're already in it. Turning back is as dangerous as going forward. This is on you. You know that, right? Marcus had said it quietly without anger, just stating fact. And he'd been right. This was on Jimmy. All of it. The temperature hit 102 degrees by noon. Jimmy wrapped his head in his spare shirt and waited for the sun to pass its zenith. His water bottle was half empty. He had maybe 30 miles still to go. He wasn't going to make it. Jimmy started walking again at 4:30 when the temperature dropped below 100. His shadow stretched long across the sand, pointing northwest. The landscape had changed. Fewer dunes now, more hard-packed dirt and scattered rocks. His ankle screamed with every step, but the splint was holding. He'd covered another 4 miles by the time the sun touched the horizon. 7 miles total for the day. 38 to go. His water was down to 1 liter. That's when he saw the tire tracks. They were old, maybe 6 months, but they were there. 2 parallel lines cutting across the hardpan, mostly filled with blown sand, but still visible. Jimmy knelt beside them. Oil company Jeep, probably. The tracks ran northwest, exactly where he needed to go. He followed them as the sun set. The temperature plummeted. Within an hour, it dropped 30 degrees. Jimmy pulled on his flight jacket and kept walking. The tracks led him to an old campsite just after dark. A fire pit with cold ash. Buried tin cans rusted through. A glass bottle half covered in sand. French label still visible. Jimmy dug through the site carefully. Found a metal canteen cup. A piece of torn canvas. A plastic bag with a hole in it. Most important, he found something carved into a flat rock near the fire pit. An arrow pointing northwest. Below it, T95 kilometer. Tindouf, 95 kilometers, about 60 miles. Someone had left a sign. The distance was wrong for his calculation, but it didn't matter. This was a marked route. People traveled it. He wasn't wandering blind anymore. Jimmy made camp in the same spot. Used the torn canvas to create a windbreak. Wrapped himself in the emergency blanket. Ate 1 energy bar and allowed himself 4 ounces of water. His body wanted more. He ignored it. The stars came out, impossibly bright. Jimmy had flown under these same stars 1,000 times. Now he was beneath them, small and broken and lost. His daughter Katie would be wondering where he was. The cargo company would have reported them missing by now. Search and rescue would be mobilizing. But they'd be searching the wrong area, following his last known position, before the storm pushed them off course. Marcus's wife, Sarah, would be getting the call right now. "We've lost contact with your husband's aircraft. We're doing everything we can." Jimmy pulled out Marcus's wedding ring and held it in his palm. The metal was still warm from his pocket. He wondered if Sarah knew that Marcus never wore it during flights. He wondered if she'd ever forgive Jimmy for killing her husband. Because that's what this was. Marcus might be alive right now, wandering the dunes. But in 2 days, 3 at most, the desert would take him. No water, no shelter, no survival training. Jimmy put the ring back in his pocket and tried to sleep. He dreamed of the cockpit, the sandstorm, Marcus's voice saying, "This is on you," over and over. He woke at 3 in the morning, shivering despite the blanket. The temperature had dropped to 48 degrees. He waited for dawn and tried not to think about how much water he had left. Dawn broke at 5:32, and Jimmy was already moving. He'd learned in the Air Force that waiting for perfect conditions got you killed. You moved when you could move, rested when you had to rest. His body was shutting down. He could feel it in the way his thoughts came slower, the way his vision blurred at the edges. Dehydration was hitting hard now. His tongue felt swollen, his lips cracked and bleeding. The tire tracks continued northwest, fading in places where wind had covered them, reappearing where the hardpan was exposed. Jimmy followed them like a lifeline. By 7 o'clock, he'd covered 2 miles. Pathetic compared to yesterday, but his ankle was failing. The makeshift splint had loosened overnight, and every step felt like bone grinding on bone. He stopped to retighten it, but the paracord had stretched. He kept walking. At 8:15, he saw something that made his heart stop. Fresh tracks, boot prints. Jimmy knelt beside them, ignoring the pain in his ribs. These weren't old. The edges were crisp, the sand still loose. He pressed his finger into one print, maybe 12 hours old. 2 sets of prints, one adult-sized, one smaller, like a child's shoe. They were heading northwest, same direction as the tire tracks. People. Real people. "Out here!" Jimmy tried to shout, but his voice came out as a rasp. His throat was too dry. He tried again. Nothing but a croak that died in the wind. He checked his water. Less than half a liter left. At his current pace, these people were 3 or 4 hours ahead of him. Maybe more. He couldn't catch them. Not in his condition. But he could follow. Jimmy pushed himself faster. The pain in his ankle became white-hot, blinding. He didn't care. He had to close the distance. By 9:30, the heat was building again. 90 degrees and climbing. His water was gone. He'd finished the last of it an hour ago. Couldn't help himself. The boot prints led him over a rise and down into a shallow valley. And there, pressed into the sand near a cluster of rocks, he saw a campsite. Recent. The ashes in the fire pit were still gray, not white. Jimmy touched them with his finger. Faint warmth. They'd been here this morning, maybe 2 hours ago. He searched frantically. Found a date pit, still moist. Goat droppings, fresh. A small piece of fabric, bright blue, caught on a rock. They were close. So close. Jimmy tried to run. His ankle gave out on the 3rd step, and he went down hard, face first into the sand. The impact knocked the wind out of him. He lay there for a full minute, trying to breathe. When he finally got to his knees, he saw them. In the distance, maybe a mile away, 2 figures moving across the hardpan. One tall, one small, and around them a small herd of goats, nomads, Berber tribespeople probably. Jimmy stood, waved his arms, tried to shout. His voice produced nothing but a wheeze. They didn't see him. They kept walking, moving steadily northwest, away from him. He started after them, limping, stumbling. The distance between them wasn't closing. They walked at a normal pace. He could barely walk at all. His vision started to tunnel, the edges going dark. He fell again. Got up. Fell. Got up. The figures were getting smaller. Jimmy collapsed at 10:45, half a mile from where he'd last seen the nomads. He couldn't get up this time. His muscles simply refused the command. He lay face down in the sand, tasting blood and grit. This was it. This close to help, and his body had quit. He rolled onto his back. The sky was impossibly blue. The sun hammered down. 110 degrees, maybe 115. His thoughts started to drift. He saw Katie's face. She was 7 years old again, learning to ride a bike. He saw Marcus in the cockpit, young and eager on his first cargo run. But Jimmy had let him down, let them all down. The guilt should have been crushing. Instead, it felt distant. His brain was shutting down along with his body. Dehydration did that. First you got confused, then you got peaceful, then you died. Jimmy closed his eyes. Maybe it was better this way. Something wet touched his face. He opened his eyes. A goat stood over him, its rough tongue licking the salt from his skin. Brown and white, with curved horns and yellow eyes. Jimmy tried to speak. Couldn't. He reached up weakly, and the goat backed away, bleeding. Voices, someone shouting in Arabic. Footsteps running. A face appeared above him. A man, maybe 45, with weathered skin and kind eyes. He wore a dusty jalaba and a tagelmus wrapped around his head. He said something in a language Jimmy didn't understand. The man turned and shouted something. A woman appeared, carrying a goatskin water bag. She knelt beside Jimmy and lifted his head gently. Slow, the man said in heavily accented English. Drink slow. The water touched Jimmy's lips and he wanted to gulp it down, but strong hands held him back, allowing only small sips. Slow, the man repeated. You die if drink fast. A boy appeared, maybe 12 years old, staring at Jimmy with wide eyes. Jimmy grabbed the man's arm, found his voice barely. Plane, crashed. The man nodded. Yes, we understand. You rest now. No. Jimmy's grip tightened. 2 men, crashed. My friend, still out there. The man's expression changed. He called to the woman, spoke rapidly. Where? The man asked. Where is other man? East. Crashed east. He walked away. Concussed. No water. The words came out in gasps. Have to find him. Please. The man placed a hand on Jimmy's shoulder. We find. Many people search. You rest now. Marcus, Jimmy said. His name is Marcus. We find Marcus. The man looked at the woman. She produced dates from a pouch and pressed one into Jimmy's hand. Eat. Small bites. Jimmy tried to sit up. The world spun and hands caught him. You very sick, the man said. We take you to station. Radio there. Call help. How far? 3 hours walk. For us. He shook his head. We carry. The boy returned with a rough blanket and 2 long pieces of wood. The man and woman fashioned a makeshift stretcher. They lifted Jimmy onto the stretcher at 11:30. The man introduced himself as Ahmed, his wife as Fatima, his son as Rashid. Pipeline station close, Ahmed said. 3 men work there. Have radio, have medicine. Jimmy tried to explain about the crash site, about Marcus's direction, about how long he'd been missing. The words came out jumbled. Ahmed listened patiently, then spoke to Fatima. She pulled out a small notebook and pencil. Ahmed turned back to Jimmy. Tell me everything. I write down, for rescue people. So Jimmy told him. The crash location, the time they went down, Marcus's appearance, what he'd been wearing, the direction Marcus's tracks had led. Ahmed wrote carefully, asking questions. How many days? Which direction exactly? Marcus has wife, Jimmy said. Sarah. We tell everyone, Ahmed promised. Helicopter come. They started moving. Ahmed and Rashid carried the front of the stretcher, Fatima the back. The goats followed, bells tinkling. Jimmy drifted in and out of consciousness. He woke once to find the sun directly overhead. Someone had draped cloth over the stretcher. Fatima was giving him water again, small sips. How long? Jimmy asked. 1 more hour, Ahmed said. You sleep now. But Jimmy couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Marcus walking through the dunes, getting weaker, falling. I should have turned back, he said. The weather warning. I should have listened. Fatima said something in Berber. Her tone was gentle. She says, Ahmed translated, desert teaches hard lessons, but you live. You have chance to learn. My friend might not live. Then you learn for both. You teach others. Ahmed glanced back. Guilt that kills you helps no one. Guilt that changes you helps everyone. They crested a rise at 1:15, and Jimmy saw it. In the distance, a thin black line cutting across the sand, the pipeline, and next to it, a small metal building with an antenna. The station, relief washed over him. They'd made it, but the relief lasted only seconds. He was going to be saved. Marcus wasn't. As they got closer, Jimmy could see the building more clearly. Generator humming, solar panels, a truck parked nearby, and hanging on a clothesline were several articles of clothing, work shirts, pants, and a flight jacket. Jimmy's heart stopped. He tried to sit up. "Marcus," he croaked. "That's Marcus's jacket." Ahmed called ahead in Arabic. A man emerged from the station, wearing oil company coveralls. Ahmed shouted something. The man shouted back, shaking his head. "No," Ahmed said quietly. "Just jacket. They found 2 days ago. Nomads bring it, hoping find owner." The words hit Jimmy like a blow. Marcus wasn't here, just his jacket. The station worker came out to help carry Jimmy inside. Ahmed was explaining the situation rapidly, gesturing, showing his notes. Jimmy caught pieces. Helicopter. Search. Emergency. They brought him into the station's small medical room, laid him on a cot. The worker, who introduced himself as Hassan, started an IV line. "You're lucky," Hassan said in perfect English. "Another few hours and you'd be dead." Jimmy looked at Marcus's jacket hanging outside. "I don't feel lucky." Hassan checked Jimmy's vitals while Ahmed explained everything to another worker who'd appeared from the back room. The second man, younger, maybe 30, immediately picked up a radio handset. "This is Station 7 calling Layun Base. We have emergency rescue situation, downed aircraft, pilot critical condition, second crew member missing in desert. Repeat, missing crew member, approximately 3 days without water." The radio crackled. A voice responded in Arabic, rapid-fire questions. The young worker answered, reading from Ahmed's notes. Coordinates, timeline, description of Marcus. "Helicopter dispatching now," the voice said, switching to English. "ETA 90 minutes to your position. We're contacting Moroccan military for extended search operations." Jimmy grabbed Hassan's arm. 90 minutes is too long for Marcus." "It's the fastest they can get here," Hassan said. "The bird has to come from Layun, but they're scrambling ground teams too. Multiple search parties." Ahmed sat beside the cot. "I tell them Marcus walked east. They search east first. Maybe he finds shelter like you." "He had no training," Jimmy said. "He wouldn't know to stay put." "Then we pray desert is kind." Ahmed squeezed Jimmy's shoulder. "You did what you could. You walked 3 days to bring help. That is something. Look. This story takes time to craft. If you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Hassan checked Jimmy's vitals while Ahmed explained everything to another worker who'd appeared from the back room. The second man, younger, maybe 30, immediately picked up a radio handset. "This is Station 7 calling Layun Base. We have emergency rescue situation, downed aircraft, pilot critical condition, second crew member missing in desert. Repeat, missing crew member, approximately 3 days without water." The radio crackled. A voice responded in Arabic, rapid-fire questions. The young worker answered, reading from Ahmed's notes. Coordinates, timeline, description of Marcus. "Helicopter dispatching now," the voice said, switching to English. "ETA 90 minutes to your position. We're contacting Moroccan military for extended search operations." Jimmy grabbed Hassan's arm. 90 minutes is too long for Marcus. "It's the fastest they can get here," Hassan said. "The bird has to come from Layun, but they're scrambling ground teams too." Ahmed sat beside the cot. "I tell them Marcus walked east. They search east first. Maybe he finds shelter." "He had no training," Jimmy said. "He wouldn't know to stay put." "Then we pray desert is kind." Ahmed squeezed Jimmy's shoulder. "You walked 3 days to bring help. That is something." But it didn't feel like something. It felt like too little, too late. Hassan worked efficiently, checking temperature, pulse, blood pressure. Severe dehydration, probable kidney injury, broken ribs, fractured ankle. You should be dead. "How long can Marcus survive without water?" Hassan's expression darkened. "In this heat, 3 days maximum. How long has he been out there?" 3 days, maybe 4 by now." Hassan exchanged a look with Ahmed. Neither said what they were both thinking. The helicopter has thermal imaging, Hassan said carefully. They can spot body heat from 2 miles away. If he's out there, they'll find him. The radio crackled again. Station 7, this is Rescue 1. We're airborne. 20 minutes out. Prepare for immediate medevac of pilot. Search operations will commence simultaneously. Hassan moved to respond, but Jimmy sat up. Tell them I'm going with them on the search. You're not going anywhere, Hassan said firmly. You need a hospital. I know where the crash site is. I can help. You can help by staying alive and providing information. Hassan pushed him back down. The search team knows what they're doing. Ahmed stood. I go with helicopter. I know desert. I help search. The sound of rotor blades grew louder. Through the window, Jimmy watched the helicopter descend, kicking up massive clouds of sand. French-made Eurocopter, medical markings, search and rescue configuration. 3 men jumped out, 2 medics and a search coordinator. They ran into the station. The coordinator, a Moroccan military officer named Captain Benali, came straight to Jimmy's cot. Captain Hartley, I need everything about the crash, everything about your co-pilot. We have maybe 6 hours of daylight left, Jimmy told him. The exact moment they lost control. Approximate crash coordinates, Marcus's condition after the crash, the direction his footprints led, the jacket Ahmed's family had found. Benali marked everything on a map, movements quick and precise. Your co-pilot walked east. That means he's moving away from civilization, deeper into the desert. That's bad. I know, but it also means he might have found the old oasis route. There's a dried riverbed 12 miles east of your crash site. Rock formations, caves. If he found shelter there, he might still be alive. It was the first hope Jimmy had heard in 3 days. Benali grabbed his radio. All units, priority search zone is the eastern rock formations, 12 miles from crash coordinates. Look for caves, overhangs, any natural shelter. Ahmed stepped forward. I know those rocks. My father bring goats there when I am boy. Many small caves. Good shade. When was the last rain? Benali asked. 3 weeks? Maybe 4. Benali turned back to Jimmy. Did your co-pilot have any supplies when he left the crash? I don't know. I was unconscious. His flight bag was still in the plane, so probably nothing. Phone. Signal mirror. His phone was destroyed in the crash. Benali's jaw tightened. So we're looking for a man with no supplies, no signaling equipment, who's been without water for 4 days in 120-degree heat. Yes, the survival rate in these conditions is less than 5%. Most people die within 72 hours. Your co-pilot is past that window. Are you telling me you're not going to search? No, I'm telling you to prepare yourself. Benali's voice softened. We'll search until dark. We'll resume at first light tomorrow, but the odds aren't good. The helicopter pilot stuck his head in. Captain, we need to move. Benali nodded. He looked at Ahmed. You're coming. Yes, I show you rocks. Hassan, get the pilot ready for transport. Second helicopter is 15 minutes out for medevac. Benali turned back to Jimmy. We'll find him if he's there to find. Then he was gone, Ahmed following. The helicopter spooled up, lifted off, banked east. Within seconds, it was just a speck against the blue sky. Hassan finished checking Jimmy's vitals. Your blood pressure is stabilizing, but you need a hospital soon. How long can someone survive without water and shade? Hassan sighed. 5 days, maybe 6 if they're lucky, and stay completely still. But most people panic. They try to walk. They use up what little moisture they have left. You don't think he found shade? I think most people don't know to look for it. They walk. By the time they realize they can't find help, it's too late. Jimmy stared at the ceiling. Marcus had been scared in that cockpit. When he came to after the crash, concussed and disoriented, would he have sought shelter, or would he have panicked and walked? Jimmy knew the answer. Marcus would have walked. Through the window, Jimmy watched the second helicopter approach. Full medical equipment. A flight nurse and a doctor. The medics came in, professional and efficient. They transferred Jimmy to their stretcher, checked his IV, took vitals. The doctor, a woman in her 40s, examined his injuries. "You're incredibly lucky," she said. "Another 12 hours and your kidneys would have shut down completely." "I don't feel lucky." "I know. Hassan told me about your co-pilot." She squeezed his hand. "But you did everything right. You got help." Except it wasn't. He could have turned back when Marcus asked. Could have delayed the flight 2 hours. Could have put safety over pride. They loaded him into the helicopter. As they lifted off, Jimmy looked east, toward the rock formations where Ahmed and Benali were searching. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction. Somewhere out there, Marcus was either clinging to life or already gone. And either way, it was Jimmy's fault. The hospital in Laayoune smelled like disinfectant. Jimmy woke up in a private room with an IV in each arm. The clock on the wall read 9:37 p.m. He'd lost hours. The flight, the intake, the initial treatment. A nurse came in when she heard him moving. She checked his vitals, adjusted his IV, spoke to him in French. He caught the important part. "Le médecin viendra bientôt." The doctor would come soon. Jimmy's throat felt raw. "Marcus," he croaked. "My co-pilot. Has anyone called?" The nurse looked confused. She left and returned with someone who spoke English, a young resident. "Your co-pilot," the resident said. "You're asking about the search." "Yes. Did they find him?" The resident's face told Jimmy everything. They found the crash site at 4 p.m. Evidence your co-pilot had been there. They're still searching? Evidence? What does that mean? I don't have details. The search is ongoing. Captain Benali said he would call with updates. Jimmy tried to sit up. Pain shot through his ribs. "I need a phone." "You need rest. Your kidneys are still in acute failure." The resident pushed him back. "The search team has your information. They'll call when they have news." At 11 p.m., his phone rang. One of the nurses had found it in his flight jacket and charged it. The screen was cracked, but it worked. "Hartley. Captain Hartley, this is Benali. We found your aircraft at 1600 hours today. And Marcus. We found tracks leading away from the crash. We followed them east for 8 kilometers before losing them in rocky area. We searched until dark. No sign of your co-pilot." "The caves. Did you check the caves?" "We found 3 cave systems, all empty. No evidence anyone had sheltered there." Jimmy's chest tightened. "So where is he?" "We don't know. We're expanding the search grid tomorrow at first light. 2 helicopters, 4 ground teams, 50 volunteers. We're bringing dogs." Dogs meant they were looking for a body. "How long will you search?" Benali hesitated. "Officially, 3 more days. Unofficially, I'll keep looking until we find something. He has a wife, Sarah, 26, married 8 months." "I know. We contacted her yesterday. She's flying to Casablanca tomorrow." Jimmy felt sick. Sarah was coming here. She'd want answers. "Captain Hartley," Benali said quietly, "I read the crash report. The weather service had issued a warning. You flew anyway." "Yes. Why?" "Pride, stupidity." "Did your co-pilot object to flying?" "Yes, strongly. But he flew anyway, because you convinced him. I was the captain. He trusted me." Jimmy's voice broke. "He trusted me, and I killed him." Benali was quiet for a long moment. "We'll resume the search at 0600. I'll call with updates." The line went dead. Jimmy stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed. A text from Katie. "Dad, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" He typed back, "I'm alive." "I'm sorry, baby." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Just come home, Dad. Please just come home." But how could he go home? How could he face Katie knowing what he'd done? The resident came back with sleeping medication. Jimmy refused it. He needed to stay awake, needed to be ready when the phone rang, needed to face whatever was coming. The phone rang at 6:43 a.m. Jimmy grabbed it before the first ring finished. "Hartley." "Captain, it's Benali. We found him." Jimmy's heart stopped. "Alive?" "Yes, barely. We're transporting him to you now. ETA 30 minutes. Where was he?" 13 miles east of the crash site. Wedged in a rock crevice. Ahmed spotted him from the air. He'd crawled into the shade and stayed there. Jimmy couldn't speak. The relief was overwhelming. "Captain Hartley, you still there?" "Yes. Is he conscious?" In and out. Severe dehydration, worse than yours. But he's alive. His vitals are stable enough for transport. Does he know we found him? He knows. First thing he said when we gave him water was your name. Asked if you made it. Jimmy closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face. We'll have him there in 30 minutes. Benali said, Thank you. God, thank you. The resident came in for morning rounds and found Jimmy crying. Captain Hartley, what's wrong? They found him, my co-pilot. He's alive. The resident's face broke into a smile. That's incredible. He found shade. He stayed put. Most people don't. Most people panic and walk until they die. The resident checked Jimmy's vitals. When can I see him? They'll bring him to trauma first. Stabilization, assessment, treatment. Then if he's stable, we can arrange a visit. But you need to prepare yourself. 4 days of extreme dehydration causes brain damage sometimes. We won't know the extent until we assess him. I don't care, as long as he's alive. 23 minutes. At 7:12 a.m., he heard the helicopter. Jimmy tried to get out of bed, couldn't with the IVs and catheter. A nurse came running. You need to stay in bed. My co-pilot just arrived. I need to see him. He's going straight to trauma. You can't be there. Get me a wheelchair, please. The nurse looked at him, then sighed. Let me talk to the doctor. 5 minutes later, they had him in a wheelchair, IVs hanging from a portable pole. The nurse wheeled him to the trauma bay. Through the window, he could see them working on Marcus. 6 people surrounding a gurney, but Jimmy could see his face, sunburned almost black, lips cracked and bleeding, eyes swollen shut, but his chest was rising and falling. Ahmed stood in the corner, still wearing his dusty jalaba, looking exhausted. When he saw Jimmy, he came out into the hallway. We find him in rocks, Ahmed said. Like I tell them. He very smart. Find good shade. Stay still. I didn't teach him anything. He figured it out on his own. Then he very lucky. Desert kills smart men all the time. Through the window, one of the doctors was inserting a central line into Marcus's neck. Another was intubating him. Is he going to make it? Jimmy asked. Ahmed shrugged. Inshallah, if God wills it. But he alive now. That is miracle enough. A doctor came out, pulling off bloody gloves. She saw Jimmy and walked over. You're Captain Hartley, the other pilot. Yes. How is he? Critical but stable. Kidney failure, probable liver damage, severe dehydration. We're starting dialysis immediately. His core temperature was 106 when we found him. That's technically incompatible with life. But here we are. Can I see him? Not yet. Maybe in a few hours once we stabilize him. She paused. He asked about you. When we first gave him water. Said to tell you he's sorry. He's sorry for what? I don't know, but those were his words. They let Jimmy see Marcus 6 hours later. Both of them were in the ICU now, rooms across the hall from each other. The nurse wheeled Jimmy into Marcus's room at 2:30 p.m. Jimmy wasn't prepared for what he saw. Marcus lay unconscious, ventilator breathing for him. His face was unrecognizable. The sun had burned him so badly the skin was black and peeling. His lips were split open, oozing. Both eyes were swollen shut. V lines ran into both arms and his neck. A dialysis machine hummed beside the bed. Jesus, Jimmy whispered. The swelling takes days to go down, the nurse said quietly. The burns will heal, but he'll have scarring. Jimmy wheeled himself closer, reached out and touched Marcus's hand. It was hot, feverish. Can he hear me? Possibly. The sedation is light. Some patients report hearing conversations later. The nurse left them alone. Jimmy sat there holding Marcus's hand. You did it, he finally said. You stayed put. That's what saved you. I walked 50 miles and nearly died. You stayed still and lived. The ventilator hissed. The dialysis machine hummed. Sarah's flying in tomorrow, Jimmy continued. She'll be here when you wake up. And when you do, I need you to know something. This was my fault. All of it. You were right. We should have turned back. He squeezed Marcus's hand. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm going to make this right, however long it takes. I'm going to face the consequences and make sure this never happens to anyone else. Marcus's fingers twitched slightly. A doctor came in to check vitals. Jimmy watched as she examined him, made notes, adjusted medication levels. "How long until he wakes up?" Jimmy asked. 24 to 48 hours. We're keeping him sedated while the worst of the swelling goes down. Will he be okay, long term?" The doctor was quiet. "His kidneys are responding to dialysis. Liver function is improving. The burns will heal. The real question is neurological damage. 4 days at that level of dehydration, the brain suffers. We won't know until he's awake, and we can do cognitive testing. Brain damage. It's possible, could be temporary, could be permanent, could be nothing. We've seen patients make full recoveries from worse." She put a hand on Jimmy's shoulder. "But he's young and strong. The odds are in his favor." After she left, Jimmy sat there until the nurse came to take him back to his room. Back in his own room, Jimmy found a message waiting. The aviation authority wanted to interview him tomorrow. Formal investigation into the crash. He called them back immediately. "I'll tell you everything, but I want it on record that Marcus Reed objected to flying. He wanted to delay. I overruled him. This crash is pilot error. My error." The investigator on the phone was quiet. "Captain Hartley, you don't have to make any statements until you have legal representation." "I don't want legal representation. I want the truth on record. Marcus was right. I was wrong. We'll be there at 9 a.m. tomorrow." "I'll be ready." The investigators arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. 2 men and a woman carrying briefcases and recording equipment. They set up in a conference room. Jimmy wheeled himself in, still connected to a portable IV. The lead investigator, Rashid Amrani, laid out papers. "Captain Hartley, I'm recording this interview. You have the right to legal counsel. Do you wish to have an attorney present?" "No." Amrani pressed record. "Please state in your own words what led to this incident." Jimmy took a breath. "I received a weather advisory at 05:30 the morning of the flight. Meteorology reported a developing sandstorm along our planned route. They recommended a 2-hour delay." "And your response?" "I disregarded the advisory. I believe we had sufficient time to complete the flight before the storm reached our position." "Did your co-pilot, Marcus Reed, agree?" "No. He expressed concern multiple times. He suggested we delay or take an alternate route that would add 90 minutes. Why did you reject his suggestions?" Here it was, the truth. "I had 847 consecutive on-time deliveries. It was a personal record. I didn't want to break the streak." The 3 investigators exchanged glances. Amrani made a note. "So you prioritized a personal achievement over safety protocols?" "Yes." "Did First Officer Reed continue to object?" "Until we were airborne, yes. Once we were in the air, he stopped arguing and focused on the flight." The woman investigator spoke up. "You're very experienced with Saharan weather patterns. What made you think you could outrun this particular storm?" Jimmy met her eyes. "Arrogance. I thought my experience made me immune to the rules. I'd flown through bad weather before and made it. I assumed I'd make it again. But you didn't." "No, the storm hit faster and harder than forecast. We lost control at approximately 8,000 feet. We crashed at 08:43 hours. Amrani leaned forward. "Were you following proper procedures when the aircraft became uncontrollable?" "Yes. Emergency protocols were followed correctly. The pilot error was the decision to fly in the first place. You understand that your statements here will likely result in the suspension or permanent revocation of your pilot's license?" "Yes." "And possible civil or criminal liability?" "Yes." "You're still willing to proceed without counsel?" "I am. Marcus Reed's wife deserves to know the truth. Every pilot who flies these routes deserves to know what happens when you put ego over safety." The interview continued for another hour. Every detail, every decision, every moment where Jimmy could have chosen differently. When it was over, Amrani stood and shook his hand. "I've been doing this job for 15 years. You're the first person who took full responsibility without hesitation. Does that change anything?" "No. The facts are the facts, but it matters." They packed up and left. Jimmy wheeled himself back to his room. Across the hall, Marcus was still unconscious, still fighting, still alive because of luck, not because of anything Jimmy had done. Marcus woke up 36 hours later. Jimmy was in his room when the nurse came to get him. Your co-pilot is conscious. He's asking for you. They wheeled him across the hall. Marcus was propped up slightly in bed, ventilator removed but oxygen cannula in his nose. His face was still swollen and burned, but his eyes were open. Barely. Hey, Marcus said. His voice was raspy, barely above a whisper. Hey. Jimmy wheeled closer. How are you feeling? Like I got run over by a truck, then left in an oven. Marcus tried to smile, but his split lips wouldn't let him. They tell me you walked 50 miles to get help. Something like that. You're an idiot. Standard protocol is stay with the aircraft. The aircraft didn't have a radio, and you were out there somewhere. Marcus was quiet. I don't remember much. The crash, waking up confused, walking, finding rocks and crawling into shade. After that, it's nothing. Until I heard the helicopter. You did exactly right. Staying put saved your life. The doctor said if they'd found me 6 hours later, I'd be dead. Marcus's eyes found Jimmy's. So thank you. For walking. For getting help. Jimmy felt like he'd been punched. Marcus, I almost killed you. You don't need to thank me. You didn't almost kill me. The storm did. I flew into a storm you told me to avoid. I ignored weather warnings. I put a streak ahead of safety. Marcus shifted slightly, wincing. Yeah, you made a bad call. I'm not going to pretend you didn't, but you also walked through hell to fix it. That doesn't make us even. I'm not keeping score, Jimmy. Marcus closed his eyes. I'm too tired to be angry. I'm alive. Sarah's flying in tonight. I get to see my wife again. That's all that matters. The investigators came. I told them everything. About the weather warning. About you objecting. Marcus opened his eyes again. What happens now? They'll probably suspend my license. Maybe revoke it permanently. The cargo company will fire me. And you're okay with that? I deserve it. Maybe, but it doesn't undo what happened. Marcus reached out slowly, his burned hand shaking. Jimmy took it carefully. What you did was wrong. Flying into that storm was stupid and arrogant, but walking 50 miles through the Sahara to save me, that took guts. So yeah, you fucked up, but you also made it right. Marcus, I'm not done. When I woke up in those rocks, alone and dying, I kept thinking about something you told me once. A good pilot makes 100 decisions a day, and if 99 are right, it's the one wrong one that kills you. You made one wrong decision, but you made a lot of right ones after that. Those count too. I'm not saying I forgive you, Marcus continued. I need time for that. But I'm saying you don't have to punish yourself forever. You already paid the price. We both did. A nurse came in to check Marcus's vitals. Sarah arrives at 8 p.m., she said. We're arranging for her to stay in the family room tonight. Thank you. Marcus squeezed Jimmy's hand once, then let go. I need to sleep. But Jimmy, don't disappear. When this is all over, when we're both healed up, we need to talk. Really talk. I'll be here. Good. Sarah arrived at 8:15 p.m. Jimmy heard her voice in the hallway. Then she was in Marcus's room and the door closed. The next morning she came to Jimmy's room. She was younger than he expected. 26, but she looked barely 20. Blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. Eyes red from crying. She stood in the doorway, just looking at him. Mrs. Reed, Jimmy said. Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't apologize, not yet. I'm not ready for that. She came in and sat in the chair beside his bed. For a full minute, she said nothing. The doctors told me what happened, she finally said. The storm, the crash. Both of you nearly dying. Yes. They told me you walked 50 miles to get help for him. Yes. They told me you gave a statement to investigators taking full responsibility. Yes. Sarah looked up at him. Her eyes were fierce. I should hate you. Part of me does. You almost killed my husband. You made a choice that put his life at risk because you cared more about some stupid streak. You're right. But Marcus told me something this morning. He said when he was in those rocks dying, he kept thinking about you, hoping you'd made it, hoping you'd get help. Does she know what happened? A daughter? Katie. She's 12. Does she know? She knows I crashed. I haven't told her the rest yet. What will you tell her? The truth, that I made a bad decision and people got hurt because of it, that I'm facing the consequences. Sarah nodded slowly. Marcus wants me to forgive you. He says holding on to anger will just make this harder. But I'm not there yet. I keep thinking about the call I got. The one that said my husband's plane was missing. The 2 days not knowing if he was alive or dead. I'm sorry isn't enough, Jimmy said. But I am sorry. More than you'll ever know. I know, I can see it. Sarah wiped her eyes. The reason I came is because Marcus asked me to give you something. She reached into her bag and pulled out a wedding ring. Marcus's ring. He said you kept this, carried it with you through the desert. Yes, he wants you to have it. Jimmy stared at the ring. I can't take that. He insists. He said it's a reminder that you walked 50 miles with his ring in your pocket, determined to make things right. He says that matters. She pressed the ring into Jimmy's hand. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said. Maybe I never will be, but Marcus is alive. He's going to recover, so I'm choosing not to hate you. That's the best I can do right now. That's more than I deserve. Probably. Sarah stood to leave. The investigators told me you'll likely lose your license. Marcus and I talked about it. We're not suing. We're not pressing charges. We just want to move forward. Why? Because Marcus says punishing you more won't help anyone. And because I'm too exhausted to carry that kind of anger. I almost lost my husband. Now I have him back. That's what I'm focusing on. She walked to the door, then paused. My father was a pilot. He died in a crash when I was 16. Bad weather, bad decisions. So I understand, even if I can't forgive yet. Does that make sense? Yes. Marcus is being discharged in 3 days. We're flying back to the States. He'll need months of recovery, but he'll fly again. He's already talking about it. Will he ever trust another captain? Sarah smiled sadly. He trusted you even after you crashed. So yeah, probably. That's just who he is. She left. Jimmy sat there holding Marcus's ring, feeling its weight. 6 months later, Jimmy stood in front of 40 student pilots at a flight training academy in Phoenix. His license had been suspended for 2 years. The cargo company had fired him. His flying career was over. This was what he did now. He taught. My name is Captain James Hartley, he told the class. 6 months ago, I made a decision that almost killed 2 men. I'm here to tell you about it. The room went silent. I had 847 consecutive on-time deliveries, Jimmy continued. I was proud of that number, too proud. When a weather warning told me to delay 2 hours, I ignored it. My co-pilot objected. I overruled him. We flew into a sandstorm and crashed in the Sahara Desert. He showed them photos. The wreckage, the desert, Marcus's burned face in the hospital. My co-pilot survived 4 days without water by finding shade and staying put. I survived by walking 50 miles to a pipeline station. We both nearly died, and it was entirely preventable. A hand went up. What made you think you could beat the storm? Experience, ego, the belief that I knew better. I'd flown through bad weather before. I thought I was skilled enough to handle anything. He paused. I was wrong. Another hand. Did your co-pilot ever fly again? Yes. Marcus Reed returned to flying 4 months ago. Different company. He's doing well. Does he blame you? Probably, but he's choosing to move forward instead of staying angry. Jimmy spent the next hour walking them through every decision point, every moment where he could have chosen differently. You're going to face pressure in this industry, he said. Pressure to make schedules, pressure to save money, pressure to maintain records. And some of you will give in to that pressure. Some of you will make the same mistake I did. He held up Marcus's ring. He carried it everywhere now. My co-pilot gave me this. It's a reminder that mistakes have consequences beyond yourself. Every decision you make affects your passengers, your crew, your family. After class, a few students came up with questions. One, a kid named Tyler, asked the question Jimmy had been waiting for. Do you regret becoming a pilot? No, I regret my choices, but flying gave me 20 years of purpose. What I regret is letting pride matter more than safety. That's the lesson. That evening, Jimmy called Katie. They talked 3 times a week now. How was class today, Dad? Good, tough group. Lots of questions. Are they listening? Some of them. Some think it won't happen to them. But some are listening. Yeah, some are. Then it's worth it. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Sarah and I are in Phoenix next week. Coffee. They'd talked a few times since the hospital. Brief conversations. Awkward but honest. This was the first time Marcus had suggested meeting in person. He typed back, yes, tell me when and where. Thursday, 2 p.m., Copper Star Coffee downtown. And Jimmy, stop carrying my ring around like penance. Just a reminder. Understood. See you Thursday. Jimmy looked at the ring on his desk. Marcus was right. Maybe it was time to let it be something else. A reminder, yes, but also a symbol of survival, of second chances. He slipped the ring onto a chain and put it around his neck. Not hidden, not flaunted, just there. A reminder that mistakes don't define you. What you do after them does. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and share it. It helps the next person find their way here.